And today on Live at 4, the latest poll numbers are out, and it's a flat-out sprint to the finish line. Both candidates for governor are in a dead-even race, and voters will head to the polls in less than a week. Marquette University Law School poll released its last set of poll numbers before the midterm election earlier this afternoon.
Both Tony Evers and Governor Scott Walker are tied with 47% of the vote. The numbers come from likely voters. And
in the U.S. Senate race, incumbent Tammy Baldwin has an 11-point commanding lead over Republican Leah Vukmir. Baldwin sitting at 54%. And Leah Vukmir is at 43%. So let's take a deeper dive into the poll numbers with our political panel. We have Democratic strategist Joe Cepecki with Cepecki Communications and Republican state lawmaker and Pewaukee businessman Adam Nealon. Joe, let me start with you. Are you surprised this race is so close?
I'm not. From the very beginning, everyone has known that Governor Walker is a very formidable politician. I think what's really encouraging for Democrats is seeing that after 8 years, so many Wisconsinites are ready for change. And when you look inside the numbers of this poll, the top two issues are healthcare and education. And I think the Wisconsin voters are beginning to understand that when it comes to those issues, Scott Walker's had 8 years to get it right. He hasn't. And Tony Evers has the right prescription for both of those issues going forward.
So, Representative Nealon, let me ask you this. Have the Democrats won the argument on health care? Economy also a big issue here, and is that helping Scott Walker?
Well, absolutely not. I think Governor Walker has been fantastic for the economy. He's also done a lot in this past session to help stabilize the health care markets and reduce cost. So I think that both of those issues, he's a strong governor on, and I think he has a lot more to offer moving forward. And I think that if it's just based on those issues, I like his chances. And I think that moving forward, it's going to have to be somebody, Tony Evers is going to have to beat Governor Walker. They can't just run a referendum against him, and I don't see that happening.
All right, let's look at the U.S. Senate race, and this one not close. So let me start with you, Representative Nealon. Why has State Senator Leah Vukmir not been able to close the gap, and can she in the closing days?
Well, I think part of it is Senator Baldwin has been running as a conservative. I mean, she is out there talking about how she's going to cut taxes and how she has been reducing government red tape. So I think she's not running on her actual record, and I think that's hurting Leah Vukmir. But I also think that you got to take the polls with a grain of salt. Because we saw 2 years ago when that last poll came out, they had President Trump and Senator Johnson trailing. So I think just like President Trump and Senator Johnson, Vukmir is a fighter, and she's going to take this all the way to the finish line, and she's going to go down fighting one way or the other.
So, Joe, give me your perspective. You're sitting on the Democrats, sitting on a big lead. Conservative groups try to spend a lot of money to take down Senator Baldwin. How does she look in these closing days?
I think she looks strong because when there's opportunities for her to work with President Trump on issues like manufacturing, she has. When she can work with Republicans on things like prescription drug costs, she does. And when there's crazy tax cuts that explode the deficit and add $1 trillion in new borrowing, she votes no. She is very much where the people of Wisconsin are. Hats off to her. I know she's going to be fighting like crazy for the last few days here, and I couldn't agree with Representative Nealon more. Polls don't mean a thing. Every single person who cares about the future of our state and our country should get out and vote between now and next Tuesday.
And we should point out that Charles Franklin, who does the Marquette Law School poll, said the very same thing. The only poll that matters is on Election Day, and that is November 6th. We appreciate both of you for your insight on this election.